Do you still go to Starbucks a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
I do for like fruit drinks, not for coffee. Because I don't know if I should say this on the record. But for coffee and espresso, it's not my favorite.
I thought about emailing him like with your story and then telling him what that manager said when you needed to
choose, that I won't have a job.
Screw that, dude.
Yeah, that was...
I want to start with Paralympics, but outside of competing, what are you looking forward to in Paris?
Outside of competing, I love carbs, so definitely baguettes. Like we did a course recon of our course where we're gonna compete on, and all I wanted to do was just eat a croissant and carry a baguette in a tote bag. So it's not the most, obviously see the sightseeing stuff, but I do have a promise to myself. If I end up on the podium or if it's in the middle of the podium and I win gold, I'm gonna buy my first Chanel bag in Paris. I love Chanel so much. It's a quote that's in my high school yearbook, and I live by a quote by her.
Did you explain the quote?
The quote's, "To be irreplaceable, one must always be different." And that is a quote, when I read it, it made me start seeing like all the things that I was so different. Everyone's saying you're different, you look weird. It made me reframe the word different and how different doesn't have to be bad. It's just you're irreplaceable because it's different. And it's cool in fashion. Why can't it be cool in our bodies and the way we are in society? And I've always honestly loved Coco Chanel, even though she was had her own stuff going on, because I never really identified with sports figures because I never saw myself as that. But she was an orphan. Yes. I never saw anyone that had no legs that's doing sports. You don't see it. How do you know you can be that kind of thing? So even though I admired them, oh, that's cool, I'll never do that. But what I connected with her story was, well, I know what it's like to be an orphan. I know what it's like to want to create a name for yourself and do something so much bigger than where you were and make something your life mean something. And I connected to that whole thing, and now here we are in Paris, and I'm chasing a Coco Chanel bag. My coach, I told him, all you need to do on the sideline at the finish is put that bag up, a side of that bag, and I will do a PR sprint, all out.
So what are the goals for the games?
It's tough because the goals are obviously to defend the two unexpected events that I won in Tokyo, but I just really, really want to win a time trial because that's kind of my weakness right now, and I really want to win that race that I'm really bad at.
Okay, explain that.
Well, it's I'm not built. I'm the smallest rider. I'm not the biggest one, and because I transitioned from winter and summer. For a time trial specialist, you just have to train so perfectly in everything. And I'm just not good at time trials. I don't know what it is. And it's a mental component. It's a race against you and the clock. But I just don't trust myself. I don't trust the lines.
Why don't you trust yourself?
I guess I think trust comes from believing in a way. If you believe in yourself, then you trust yourself to execute, and you trust yourself to be able to achieve what you envision for yourself. And I know I'm my own worst critic. I know I'm the hardest person on myself. And I mean, a lot of people don't realize, but when I started sports, I was an athlete that had to learn how to lose. I didn't make the teams. I didn't make the Paralympic Games right away, or the national teams, or get that gold medal in my first games. It was so I learned how to lose first. But it was, for me, okay, because I know that feeling. I know how it's like to always be on the bottom and have to fight against everything because of my experiences in life. That might be my greatest weakness as well. It's my greatest strength because I push myself so much. But there comes a point, you can't, it's gonna hurt me not to believe in myself too. And that's honestly 70% of a race right there.
I was talking to your mom yesterday, and she's even today, Oksana will just start beating herself up really good. I can't do this anymore. if I don't win gold, I'm going to lose all my sponsors. And so you'll kind of allow yourself to get to that place today too, from what I understand. But she argued that it's intentional on your end because you know that's what will help you.
No, that's how she's seeing it.
Okay.
My fear is that, like, and there's so many different, I think it's like the fear of failure and the fear of loss, and it's like something that's ingrained from, I know what it's like to not have anything and to have something and to not, I get so scared when it's so good and everything feels so nice.
You don't trust it.
I don't trust it. It's a matter of time before it's gone. And that's kind of how I've always, which is bad. I know it's not healthy at all, but it's impossible to not think about that when I have witnessed so much loss firsthand and felt it. And that's imagine if you're growing up and all those childhood memories that you have when you go home to visit your parents and stuff are coming back and you remember all these happy things. What if your first childhood memory is no sense of security in love and hugs and kisses and parents and people looking out for you and food? So all I knew of the world was survival, and not having that became my normal. Like, that's all I knew. And it's so hard to transition, to go from that to have this. I'm like, well, when is this gonna go back to what it was and how everything was starting for me?
And it's so interesting too, because even if the majority of your life has only been positivity and security, it's those formative years that make all the difference. And we're going to talk about some of that a little later on.
That's what she started saying. She's like, I get it, it's part of your process, you're gonna do this, and then you get a start line and you just go. And then, like, I think that's what she says to tell herself, to like, oh my God, just let her do her thing.
Yeah. I've been told not to play you in Risk.
My gosh. I'm competitive. Doesn't matter if it's on the start line or if it's a board game. I had one rule for everybody, and that's do not take over Ukraine. And Aaron and everyone's like, do you not understand what the premise of the game is? So I set myself up for failure right from the start because I put all my pieces on Ukraine. And I was like, come at me. Come for Ukraine. I dare you. My poor teammate, Andy, he was like, I'm so sorry, Oksana. And then he invades Ukraine. And then I don't even remember it. I kind of blacked out, but I do remember like the
over
pieces.
A board game?
Yes. And then so I just lost it a little bit. One rule. He had only one rule. He couldn't take over anything else. But he went there.
All right. So what is the training routine entail today?
So right now we're about 3 months out, and I'm still kind of condensing and doing the type of volume training that my competitors did in the winter. So it's like a lot of longer rides, 3 to 4 hour rides. We just got done doing World Cups in Europe right now, so now preparing for the qualifying race for Paris. And that's what's so scary, is because I know I'm like here and my competitors are right here in their journey to like being the fittest athlete on the bike. And so it's a little bit of like, oh gosh, like this is really, like I'm not ready, and I start to second guess my coach and second guess myself. But like, I'm really trying to, this will be my 7th games if I make it, to just truly trust the process. And that's the one thing I have confidence in my coach. He's made the impossible possible for me, and the results and the outcomes happen in the most unexpected ways possible. And it's just reminding myself of like, okay, it's just one bad day. It doesn't mean it's gonna be like this for the next 3 months.
In what ways is training for cycling more difficult?
Well, for starters, from skiing to cycling,
Time investment?
That, like, it's all, like, our races are, for cycling, like, can be 3 hours long or longer for the road race. For skiing, the biggest difference, though, is the body. So I'm using my muscles to propel myself with pulling, but for cycling, it's pushing. And so I have to retrain and re-strengthen all the muscles. And I was doing that this winter where I was in the morning, would get up at like 5 in the morning, would do an hour fasted ride, and then I would go do my ski workout, and then in the evening do an easier cool down on the bike. But it keeps me on my toes all the time because I'm starting over. And so that hunger and that determination to be better and to make those gains fast is bigger if I was just focusing on cycling.
How much of a miracle is it? Your mom was talking about this, that you can even cycle because of like your finger, right?
Oh yeah, well, I'm accident prone. Even if I had 2 real legs, I'm just very much accident prone. But last season, 2 seasons ago, I fell in a ski race, right before the season started, and I damaged this. My left hand was my strongest hand. My middle finger was my strongest finger because I don't have the normal anatomy on it. I break it. I don't really realize what damage I did to it, but I knew I had to finish that race. So because I skied on that and it dislocated and ripped off all the ligaments and everything and the tendons on it, because I finished it for 15 more minutes, I made a whole lot of damage. So it took me off the whole season. Now I as if I needed another scar in my hand. Now I have another scar on my hand. But at least this one's a cool one. But it took 3 surgeries to repair it, and it still didn't work because of my anatomy's undoing the repair. The thing with my hands is they're curling in. And so like doctors when I was younger said, you're not gonna be able to have use of your hands probably until past 25. They'll curl in and you can't use your hands at all. And obviously I'm about to be 35. I don't like saying that still. That's a big number. And I still am using it, but it's causing a lot of damage. So the biggest transition from on the bike was I used to brake with that middle finger. And so I had to relearn how to hold a ski pole and how to hold a grip. My shifters and my brakes all have to be on one hand because it was my strongest hand. It makes it harder to build something, and I could not safely brake at all. My hands make me feel so disabled sometimes. Not
Really?
my legs, my hands. And when I was at TRD, I tried out what just what they literally did with the molding. And I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, I can brake and I can hold it. And it's everything to be able to give 100%. When you're going down a hill, 40 plus miles an hour, and not having that confidence of where's the brake and can I brake, and pushing the shifters, I was so excited. And I know for me that is going to be a game changer where my competitors don't have to worry about that at all. They're just getting in their bikes and it's all normal for them. But for me, I'm technically like a quad competing in a non-quad division, and the girls know that if they hit me hard enough, my hands will fall off. And so with Toyota's help at TRD, they customized the hand grips, where in Tokyo they were doing that and my hands didn't fall off that time. And it made a huge difference because in Rio, when that was happening, I went from 4th and 5th place to 2 gold medals in Tokyo with the new grips. And I can't wait to see what this new grip for the brake will do.
What has the Toyota relationship meant to you?
Oh my gosh. It's so hard to put into words with the relationship, and having a company and a brand like Toyota supporting me and believing in me, especially because they truly understand the power of just freedom of movement, and that it's a fundamental right for everyone. And they understand like the mobility, and they've enhanced mine so much on the bike, in the car, yeah, but mainly in my sport. It wasn't until I partnered up with them and they took a chance on me where I started thriving as an athlete and went from being that 3rd best, 2nd best to finally achieving my first gold medal. And it was because they helped me make that possible too.
I want to take you back to your kind of earliest days in sport. What did rowing do for you?
Oh my gosh. I miss rowing so much.
Do you?
I do. If I didn't break my back, that's what I would be doing right now to this day. I love the water, and I don't know why or maybe it's because it makes me always go back to that one happy memory I do have in one of the younger orphanages I was in. But I love the water, and I think I feel so much more in control, because when you're on the boat and when I push off the dock and you're holding the oars, and if you put it down, like, you're the one who's making that boat move, and everything you do, and you're in control of the actions. I think I love that sense of it and that freedom of it. And little did I know I would be here.
And outside of your mom, Randy and Bobby were the first people that told you can do something.
Yeah.
Explain the significance of that.
It's, it's like your parents believe in you, and they always are going to say you can do anything you put your mind to. But when you have someone outside of a parental role or a family role telling you and seeing potential in you and believing in you, hits different. And for me, that was Randy, who at first came home. Randy and Bobby came to our house. They set me down and they were like, okay, think you can make it to the Paralympic Games. And I was like, what the hell is a Paralympics? I had no idea what it was. And they're the first ones that saw that level of sports for me and representing Team USA. And then what Bobby did was just, he committed everything. He paid for half of a boat. I got a grant, and he paid for the other half out of his own money to buy a boat where I would be able to train in, because he knew that was a big factor, is needing to get a better boat to train in. It also was so strange because I never really had like a male role in that way too, to like in a positive role. Mm-hmm. And in so many ways I felt like, especially with Bobby, I like felt so connected, like, oh my gosh, like I know he wasn't my dad, but like felt like he had such a huge influence on me, and I never wanted to let him down, and wanted to, kind of like my mom, prove her right, that she adopted the right girl and that was worth the fight. Prove to him, hey, what you believed is true. I want to do it. And that's what he always said. He would always, before races, be like, all right, well, prove it. So became a motto, kind of.
Why did you sleep in the Team USA uniform the first two nights?
Oh man, that's so embarrassing. I don't want people to know that. I just couldn't believe it, because like in 2008, I wanted to make this team so bad, and I didn't make that games. And then when we made it and got our first uniform, I was so excited. I just couldn't believe this was happening. And the fact that it just said USA, and I'm representing something so much more. And it's wearing that dream I've always dreamed of and sleeping in it. And just like, it made it more real if I had it on. I did the same thing when I won my first world championship titles for cycling too. I slept in the rainbow jersey because, so I don't know, but it's just like, I'm not a medals person.
I know, you'll leave them in hotels, won't you? Like, yes. Consciously.
Yeah, oh my God. I felt so bad. You know what's so embarrassing? This cleaning person, we were leaving, and she's like, oh, you left this. And she gives the medals, and I was like, oh, oops. And I was trying to I put them in the trash can. I should not have said that, but then she's like, oh, and also this, and it was a stuffed animal. And I was like, oh, I did not want to forget that. And that was a pure mistake. And I got more excited over that than the medals. Mm-hmm.
But what about that first bronze meant so much to you?
Oh my gosh. I was on cloud 9 with that. And that's the one medal that's broken, because I didn't realize what a Paralympic medal was. I was in the gym and I was swinging it, and then it fell on the cement floor, and now it's in 2 pieces. But I've learned now. But like that bronze medal in London, I mean, we went from being the least experienced boat, the smallest boat, and we were not expected to make the A final at all. And next thing you know, we are neck and neck with the British boat and the US boat. And it's a photo finish. And I've never heard a crowd so loud in my life. And they were not cheering for USA, for sure. And I think it just... So in rowing, you have an award stock you row to. You leave from like the dock where all the boats are, but then when you win a medal, you go to a different dock. And I have never been, first of all, more scared in my life to walk on a dock and in my legs and be like, don't be this person that falls and drowns and becomes an international news now, because I'm just so excited. And I saw my mom, my Aunt Tina was there, and my family, and Bobby, and he was just like, just seeing his face, the people who believed in you from the start, and to be able to have something where I can like give to them and show them like, hey, you were right, thank you.
It touches you even now talking about it.
Yeah, like I have to like fight the tears a little bit, just because, especially for everything, for like, I know how much what Bobby has done for me, but I think as I'm kind of heading towards like the second half of my career, and more like not the back end, because I don't want it to be over yet, but I am being older and seeing myself more in like a coaching role and helping people in the power of belief. And I think that's the thing, is like, I don't believe in myself, but I believe in the people who believe in me, and their belief makes me believe that I'm capable of doing it. That was the moment I felt, looking at the American flag, I felt like I belong here. I'm meant to be an athlete, and I can be an athlete.
What happened to the elbow?
Oh, in 2018, well, like I said, I'm a klutz, so just like in.
That was a bad one.
I was basically almost career ending and games ending for sure. I'm still not over that, actually. I'm still so angry about it, because I feel like I was robbed in a way. This was in 2018, my 4th Paralympic Games. I'm entering it, and I feel like I have the world's expectation on me to bring home not just one gold medal, but multiple, because I'm having the year before, and leading into it, season of my life, won a lot of world championship medals. And I just now have got my first partners. So like Toyota is now my partner, and believing in me, and iconic brands like that. And 2 weeks before, I end up falling and breaking my elbow. It dislocated it, but in the process of it, it fractured and broke all the ligaments and tendons all off of it. And this radial head was fractured, and there were bone particles that swelled up, and I have felt a lot of different types of pains. I've felt broken bones, and so I knew this was really, really bad. This was not just a sprained muscle or weird twist. I called Eileen, and the first doctor says, nope, you're not going to the games, it's impossible. Eileen also didn't take that, thank God, she's like me, she didn't take that as an answer of like, nope, we're gonna see other answers, we're gonna see what's possible. And went out to Vail, the Stedman Clinic, and
Which is the clinic.
Yes, and actually, Dr. Viola worked on my elbow twice. I had 2 elbow surgeries, and then also like I had a procedure there. He also was the one that did all 3 hand surgeries on my hand as well. And so he really, they are incredible there, but he is on another level, to the point we call him and he's on the ski lift, and he's like, send me the x-rays. At the top of the ski lift, he's like, okay, this is the plan, this is what we're gonna do, you're gonna fly out here, and has it dialed in. And that is why I want to push myself, and was not gonna let that stop me from not trying to go to the games and see what I can do. Because if you have someone that's willing to stop everything on their life to help you, the least I can do is prove them right that it was worth it.
And you were essentially told by the 2 other doctors that
they said
end
no.
of the line.
Yep, they said you can't go. Like this is like a couple month recovery with surgery, minimum. And he was the first person that said yes to me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care what that meant. My mind's, I'm already missing 2 legs. What's another limb? Let's go for it. How bad can it really get?
Oh, okay, but how bad could it get based on what he was saying the risks were?
That I would not have use of this arm. I would lose the entire use of my arm. And that's what a lot of, even the people with the USOPC, like sports med team, they were saying you have to think about your quality of life, not just sports. I know for me, like, I don't want to live this life of what if? What if I never went and tried and just see what I was capable of doing? And then halfway through the games, it was like so crazy how it all happened. Halfway through the games, I fall. And of course it has to be that side where I have the brace on and it's all locked up. So I'm like stuck at a 90-degree angle on it. And it dislocates entirely. And that literally was everything they were saying could injure my hand entirely forever. And I get it. I use my hands to like get up. I use my hands for everything. So it's like my legs in a way outside of my prosthetics. And then 2 days after that fall was a sprint race. They're telling me, the team in the US team, I go and have x-rays, the MRI, everything there. And they're telling me it's over. Like you literally, they tried to force me to stop because they were thinking more about, you're really gonna destroy this arm and you're gonna have no hand at all and down to one functioning limb that's already has a claw on this side, so it's not really that good anyways. And then the crazy thing is, I was kind of like, I'm just too stupid to stop, I guess. I don't know, I'm just too determined.
And so what happens?
We go through, we try all these crazy different tapings on top of the brace. And then basically they said, like, we do not think you should do this, but it's ultimately your choice of what you want to do. Just know the risks that you're going to encounter and what can happen from this. And I was like, let's go. That's all I needed. It's the butt. I race the sprint. I qualify first in the sprint. I win my heat, and then I win the Paralympic gold medal. And that's the first way I get my gold medal, which is the craziest thing.
Describe the emotion, though, of that one.
Oh my gosh. I just didn't think, I didn't think it was possible at all. And literally, I think the emotion and like why I'm getting emotional now is like not because I achieved the gold medal, but just looking at the entire village that it took for just this one race. And after getting knocked down and going from like not almost making it to the Paralympic Games at all, the one time you believe in yourself, to crashing out and not being able to finish the games, to actually being a gold medalist, something I never thought. I don't know, it's just so weird to say gold medal still. I don't know, I always thought I was going to be always that second or third best athlete. And then so when I got to stand there in the podium, it was crazy. Like it started snowing, like I was in a snow globe. And my whole team was there and just screaming. Oh, it was so cool. I just couldn't believe it. And then next thing after that, and the next day was the 5K race, and I won another gold medal. And then it was followed up by the surgery, followed by a second surgery because I chose to race on it. And then that was hard.
There's lasting damage to a couple of the fingers because of it, right?
Yeah, and that's what they were worried is like I was gonna lose the function of my fingers and my hands, and nerve damage, not just a structural damage. And I have a lot of nerve damage on these two fingers, and like just lost a lot of strength because I don't have a thumb. So my pinky and my ring finger were my strongest fingers, and I can grip 4 pounds on the squeeze test now.
Worth it?
Totally worth it. I would do it 3 times over again and some.
So why do you want LA 2028 to be your last Paralympics?
Oh my gosh, who wouldn't want to end up their Paralympic athletic career at a home games? My dream is, I know I will most likely, I'm gonna be old, so I don't know how competitive I will be for a medal. I'm gonna try my damn hardest. My dream is to be able to be there racing with a next generation of athletes in cycling, or if it's another sport, but in cycling, and seeing that like especially for cycling, like that generation's gonna live on. The sport is going to grow, and just racing with them is what's really, really important. And at home, like, I mean, representing USA and everything, it means, like, if you could see the goosebumps under this, like, I think it's beyond the fact that LA is gonna put on the best games ever. It's showing in the US what's possible. And right now we're looking in the US of women in sports and the gender equality that's happening and the TV coverage. The next big thing that has to happen is the same equality in Paralympic athletes and adaptive sports. And the power of a home games means more opportunities and more doors open for these young kids who are 8 years old that are gonna be able to start sports right away. And instead of needing to Google what that means, and that they can be an athlete and represent Team USA.
Why is that so important to you?
It's important to me because I didn't have that. And I felt like I found rowing, but it's just creating a more equal society. The sweat equity I put in, the sweat equity, there's nothing different if you're lighting up in the start line, riding a bike with your hands or your legs, or you're swimming blind, whatever it is. That freedom of movement in sports and that start line is for everybody. And it's undeniable, the power of sports. And that's what it should be for everyone. Should feel included in that space.
You mentioned the idea of coaching. What do you see as post-competing life entailing for you?
Oh man, I don't know if my athletes can handle my mentality and my approach, but
okay, what would that mentality and approach be? I can't imagine you being as hard on them as like you are on yourself.
I
like,
won't
you
be,
can't
but
do this,
I just
and
know
all that.
like what Bobby and Randy were for me and what Eileen was for me and my coach Gary now is for me. And all it takes is that right coach to believe in you. And it can change that person's life. And we need more of that. It's something I've been fortunate enough to get in my sports, but I hear so many stories that a lot of athletes stop, and especially young girls. Like, my passion is to get more girls and women in sports, and for them not to stop after high school because they had a bad experience with a coach. And I love the idea of too, like, getting more female coaches. Eileen is one of the few rare female head performance directors of the Nordic program, but she was the only a woman's coach. And that's really important to me too. But I think my approach would just be like, just do everything. Whenever you find that thing that you are so excited to get up at 5 a.m, that's your sport. Because 5 a.m. is not fun for anyone.
Rob not covering up the prosthetics, how much of a positive impact did that have on you?
To me, I thought it was the most badass thing I've ever seen. And it really, meeting him and rowing and sports, combined that timing for me, really transformed the way I viewed myself and questioned, why is it so badass for him when I see him with his legs and that looks cool, but here I am, I hate it, it's not badass at all. And it kind of
because it was just all up here, right?
It's all in the mind. All in the mind. Just like that Chanel quote, TV replaceable one must always be different. Like, it hit me like, wait a minute. And that light bulb, or Scooby would be like, ruh-roh. But,
Wait, do that again?
No. One time.
You think you would have done ESPN's Body Issue if not for Rob?
I don't know if it was because of Rob. I think that was step one to recognizing, wait a minute, why don't I feel this way about myself? Why is it cool for someone else but not me? And it kind of sparked that thought in that conversation. So I guess in some ways you can think about it that way. And then there's some people at US Rowing that also said this is a really cool opportunity to show your sport and show beauty and strength in different ways. Because I almost said, no, no way in hell am I going to take my legs off or anyone's going to see this or my body, period. I did not have the tan for that day.
So what brought you around to the place where you're like, screw it, I'm going to do this?
I started realizing, wait a minute, questioning these for the first times for myself, that I feel this way because society's made me feel this way, and is that it's the narrative is hide all these things that make you different, and that's not good. And I really wanted to show society, but also women and people that beauty comes in so many different shapes and colors and forms, and there's power in it. And in some ways Rob helped me see, like, okay, help me embracing this in a different way instead of hiding it, because it was bringing the wrong kind of attention when I was trying to hide everything, because people just were more curious about it instead of them seeing, oh, okay. And it was the start of the journey to learning how to love myself and truly love my body and all the differences, not just say it, but actually show it in a way. The bodies issue is to celebrate an athlete's body, because I think a lot of times, like, you have the stick figure skinny supermodel, beautiful people that they think is like what pretty is. And I think a lot of times, whether you're a Paralympic athlete or not, I think athletes in general have unique bodies when you're transforming your body for the sport. Whether you have really strong legs and small upper body, or strong shoulders, and it's all different. That's the coolest thing about a body. You're transforming it. And I love the idea, from skiing to cycling, I'm transforming my back to my chest and my shoulders. I'm seeing that transformation. And it's celebrating that, of all the hours and the sweat equity that you've put in your body. And it's not just the leanest athletes. I mean, baseball players are in there. Athletes are athletes. Bodies are bodies, and they're unique in their own ways and are beautiful in their own ways.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the orphanage. You vividly remember the days where potential parents who were considering adopting were coming by to decide.
They put a freaking dress on you. If you weren't cute enough, they would rip that dress off and put it on that little girl next to you, or that little boy next to you. I learned to hate those days.
Did you?
Yeah, the only thing I didn't hate about it is that's when we got food. Because, I just realized that I don't have my waterproof mascara on. I knew, because I'm like, one thing I saw in all the interviews that you do is everyone's like, wow, you do your research and stuff, and like crying and stuff. So I knew better than
There's
this.
no mascara running though.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I remember 2 specific families that said, we're gonna be your new home. And then I really stopped listening to those words when they never came back.
Why was getting shots such a scary experience?
Well, so in Ukraine, they go from the oldest to the youngest. I was the youngest and the smallest. Use 1 needle for all 300 kids. And that needle, by the time it got to me, was super, super dull. And so they stabbed it in. It always took about 3 or 4 people to hold me down, because I would run. I didn't want like that pain and stuff. And it was just that memory. And that's like, those things that like are triggering. It's just like seeing a needle and you're brought straight back to that moment. To this day, I don't do well with surgeries. I had surgeries in Ukraine, but we didn't have anesthesia in Ukraine. And so all the surgeries were like, you felt everything. They ripped teeth out with pliers that were old, and they just went in. They didn't put you down, they just held you down. I have like a lot of scars in my body from IV cut down scars from things that's gone wrong. But yeah.
What was the deal with baths?
Well, I love warm baths. I don't like cold water on my body, period. Or like shower type like things. Because that was a form of, I guess, punishment. Our orphanage, when my mom came to get me, she kept her winter coat and her sweaters and everything on, and she saw her breath, and there were people that were chipping away ice on the hallways because the pipes would freeze, like would leak, and then that's how cold it was. There was no heat in our orphanage.
And it gets pretty cold in
Real
Ukraine.
cold in Ukraine. You had a circle, and you had to stand there, and they just hosed you down, and you didn't know when it was gonna stop. If you went outside of it, or if you sat down, there's a lot more that would happen. And that's like, I shared some things in my book, but there's a lot I did not share because I don't think people would just have the stomach for, and it's not relevant either, because it's more just like, I want people to like bring awareness to things I feel like a lot of people know it maybe happens in orphanages, but don't, especially Eastern European there's differences between government-ran orphanages and local orphanages too, by the cities. And that specific orphanage, after parts of my story came out, they did like an audit, and it was shut down. Everyone lost their jobs because after they had their background checks and they found things on it, it was shut down.
You wrote about the orphanage. It was run as an underground brothel. Like, what would you see?
It was an upstairs room, and it was just sometimes one bed, sometimes two beds, and then no windows, and just a door, 3 locks, because I heard it every time, separate ones.
And you were put in there every night from 5 to 7 years old.
Mm-hmm. Lainey and I were always together until she was gone. She was my best friend. Like from 5, it was on and off. 6 to 7 when Lainey was gone, it was every single night. And there was a person that always at each door and would just sit there. I didn't even know that it was a brothel. I didn't know what was happening. All I knew is I did not like it, and I didn't realize. And then I felt so guilty because that's what, like, oftentimes she would say, get under the bed because it was so dark. There was no lights in the room at all, and no windows. So they didn't know how many kids there were sometimes in a room. She told me to go into the bed, so they think it was just her only and not me. But I was up there for some reason the most, and I don't know if it's especially like after what happened to her or what I did to deserve it. I think it's because I was bad all the time, and I never learned from it. And I literally heard people say they wanted to kill me because from what I saw and what I survived through in the orphanage.
You heard people say they wanted to kill you?
Yeah, well, because if I made it out, like because I saw what happened to Lainey, that those 2 voices, there were more than them there, but those 2 voices were having that conversation because I snuck under other chairs and tables so they didn't see where I was and got out. Explain the role that she played in your life. She protected me from things that I had no idea until when she was gone. I really knew what she was doing because she was my family. I think the reason why I'm able to even connect and have a bond with my mom is because I had a bond with her, and I learned through her like I learned like home, and I know what safety felt like, and she was a little older than me, and she always protected me and stuff, and she's one of those people that never made it out. I watched it because it was my fault of how she died and why she died and stuff.
You can't blame yourself for that, though.
Oh, I can, because I'm a klutz. Like you told me, I broke my elbow, I'm breaking my hands, I'm meant to fall, and I can't even crawl around an orphanage floor without making noise.
You were a kid trying to get bread. Like, that's nothing to feel responsible for, and certainly not something that, you know, somebody deserves to get murdered for. You guys were
And we
being
would have been
kids.
totally fine if my foot didn't slip and hit the chair. Like, it would have been fine. I knew it was hell before she was gone, but then that's when things really got bad, when she was gone. And then I've never ever wanted more. And this is why I struggled with like the whole suicide watch, and like struggled with killing myself, because I just felt like there was nothing to really live for. Like, you lose the number one thing ever. And that reason why in life, like, my mom is that now. That's why I'm always like freaking out to her. I'm like, Mom, you cannot die. You have to die after me. It's you know, it's like now everything I do, and even with sports now, I swear to God, I feel her. And
How so?
like when I'm racing, there's times where I'm like looking back and I swear I feel like somebody just pushed me out of nowhere. And I feel like is it her? Like, I feel like she's always with me and part of me in that journey. And you race hard when you have a why, and a why that's so powerful you're willing to bury yourself for. And I mean, my family, my mom, my partners, but Lainey is my why in life, of why to keep moving on those hard days. And I think whenever I see those young little kids, whether they have a disability or in athletes, just like create a life she never had, and I want to try and live my life in a way for people it means something, because she never got to. She did it for me, and I knew if I give up, then everything she died for and sacrificed for me because she told me to be quiet when she knew what was happening, and it would all be for nothing if I didn't live my life to the fullest in the way she would, I know, want me.
What do you think she taught you?
I think she shaped my heart. I think she gave me a heart for life and to see beauty. Like, she always was so positive, and always, which I'm not that person, which is so weird, but I think a lot of people are like, well, why is it that you had so much experience in Ukraine? You should hate Ukraine, but you were so proud to be there. And I think it's because, I think a lot of it is like her, for sure, but I mean, I just like think of her eyes when she like puts her hands on my shoulders right before a hug, and it's just like the communication you can have with eyes of like, she's always there, and you don't have to have some physical right there to have a family. Your family, like, they don't have to physically be in the room with you. They're always going to be there with you, and I think that's something that she gave me, this inner strength to believe it. It just took my mom in the right family to really make me believe it and feel it.
And I hope you recognize how proud she or anybody would be.
I hope so. She's probably like, damn it,
achievements.
Oksana, stop climbing on that or doing this. I don't know, maybe some higher force and power knew that I was too stubborn to die and make it through one day.
Well, you got it shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was some crazy thing after my book. There were some kids who were in that same freaking orphanage that said, I remember this. Me too. Like, they went through this, or if it wasn't that specific orphanage, a lot of Ukrainian kids were sending me messages like, oh my gosh, you literally just wrote what I experienced, and this really happened, and shared to me their experience, which is so weird to read something you can vision because you were there and feel it too and smell it. And I think it's like the power of sharing a story is all of a sudden like you don't feel alone in it, when I felt like I was the only one that went through that.
How do you avoid letting your anger towards the people that did that become all-consuming?
Well, I think as our sports psych Artur would say, like, I don't think I'm still learning that anger, because I do have moments of it. But the thing is, like, those are just few people. That wasn't all of Ukraine. It wasn't everyone there. And I think I had to get out of those woods and understand and learn and heal to know, like, to try to understand that I didn't have control over it. And yes, I can have rage and I can have wasted energy. And it's that same thing that our sports psych was saying. Like, I can use this anger, but it's gonna go nowhere. All it's gonna do is just make me angry, is live in with me, but do something from what that anger brings you. And, like, acknowledge there, use that to fuel you, to make that difference, and to not just live in it.
You mentioned going back to Ukraine. Explain the emotions when you went back to an orphanage for the first time.
Well, first of all, that orphanage I went to had color on the walls and they had art. And I was, at first of me, I got jealous. I was like, wait a minute, I never had this, and started realizing those things. But then when I saw the kids, it broke my heart. It was kind of like going back in time. And this young little girl, she was maybe 5, had dark hair, this look in her eyes looked so familiar, and I felt it in a way that I felt like I know this feeling that you're giving me. Because I was her once upon a time. And then we were doing a picture and she just grabs my hand. And I was like, oh my God, like, my heart melted, because, like, I wanted to have that so bad, to have someone in the orphanage to just hold a hand to, and that she had the power, and, like, just felt like this. We almost in a way, like, had this, like, like, we couldn't communicate at all, but, like, it's somehow, like, our souls knew, like, we walked the same path in a way. And so it was sad to see that this still exists. There are so many kids that don't have families. And then it made me realize, like, how lucky I was to have it. And honestly, like, I've always felt guilty for making it out of there when I know and I saw people that didn't make it out of there. And I always questioned, like, why did I get so lucky? And
why guilty, though?
Because I got out, but I never forgot the ones who didn't, and the kids that were still there. And I think now I wonder to myself, like, maybe there's a reason that I had to get out, because now I want to be a part of rebuilding of Ukraine and having a voice to make it better for orphanages, orphans. And yeah, I'm just so damn proud to be Ukrainian.
Can I ask what the tattoos represent?
Oh, yes. Well, so I have, this one that is it's bad now. It's really bad quality. I wish my friend told me, Oksana, this is not the best place to go. But when I was 18, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting a tattoo. I'm going to the first place I see tattoo parlor. But it's initials of my American Ukrainian name. I have a dandelion being blown away into birds, and it's just a metaphor of letting go and being free. And then I have the bigger one is a rose, and it's like a live rose, and it's fading into a burnt up black and white dead rose. And I love this song by Aretha Franklin, "A Rose is Still and Always Will Be a Rose." I think it's just a rose, but, like, the quote I kept on it is, "A rose is still and always will be a rose." And it goes right over a scar that was I don't even, a scar that happened right before my mom came to get me, because I still had the stitches I was picking out to the day when, like, I was so proud when I picked out the last one when we came to America. But it was from one of the nights when I was fighting back from one of the guys in the upstairs room, and he cut me with a knife, and I just felt like my whole body was covered in scars, and scars that were either inflicted on me or from surgeries or just forms of different methods to punish people. And I felt like my story was written for me on my body. And instead of running from it, I chose to, through therapy and through sport and through the right people who love me, instead of running from it, acknowledge it, but in the powerful way, is it doesn't matter what's been done to you. Whether it's a dead rose or a live rose, it still and always will be a rose. And I'm still worthy of having love and feeling beautiful, regardless if there are things that are, my body's tainted in ways that I will always feel like is tainted. But everything in life is a state of mind. It's how you want to feed into those memories. And so I wanted to rewrite through tattoos and put these markings on my body of like, this is my story. This is how I'm choosing to view them instead of accept the ones that were given to me before I even had a chance to be a normal kid, break my arm, and get a cool scar that way.
What'd the tattoo artist say about your pain tolerance?
A guy, like, oh my God, when he got into across the scar where the ink was a little harder for it to actually take, he was like, damn, you're tough. I enjoy pain when I am controlling it. In some ways, pain's comfortable for me. I felt it. It's all I've known since day one, really. B, it reminds me that I'm alive enough to feel this pain. And that lactic acid burn and that racing, and that's that thrill that it gives me. It's that pain. And I'm so lucky to be in that moment, to feel that pain, to put my body through that, because that means I'm still here.
Adoption. What do you remember from the first time you saw your mom's picture?
Oh my gosh. I remember her rosy cheeks. Like, her cheeks were super rosy, and she had just like this honest, pure look on her face. And I remember seeing a lot of people that would come and say, we want to adopt you, and they never come back for you. For her, and her eyes and her smile, there was something that felt like home by looking at that picture. And I don't even know how to explain that, because I didn't even know what a home was. But I felt like I was safe looking at that picture in a way.
Why would the orphanage almost torture you with the photo?
I think when I was younger, bad attention was better than no attention. Mm-hmm. And I definitely pushed that to its limit. And I really don't know why they would use that besides just control, because I think I was one of those people that I would not give them the satisfaction of being scared and showing it, because, well, first of all, I'd get beat up if I did, but that's the one thing that if you don't show them that you're scared, and then they ultimately are controlling you. But by that picture and by choosing when I get to do it, that was a ticket way to control.
Well, and at one point, weren't they telling you she wasn't going to be your mom anymore?
Yeah, well, because and I believed them, because it took 2 years for her to come. I guess she sent a lot of things I never received. Never received any letters from her at all, or pictures besides just her passport picture.
Describe the feeling of eventually being given that photo to keep.
Oh my gosh. And it was only that night before. The director gave me the picture of my mom to go to bed with, and I put it in a stand next to me. And that's the last thing I remember. And then the next thing you know, she's there. And my mom's there, like black shadowy figure, because she had her hood on and she took it off at fur, and my Aunt Sherry was there.
And you're thinking what at the time?
No, I'm thinking once I got to see that woman's face, I know you. It's like, I looked at her and I was like, I know you. I have your picture. And that's the first thing. It was like I was never a good sleeper to begin with. So I was.
You hated sleep, right? For the longest time you would
in
hate
America,
to go to sleep.
yeah. And to this day, Aaron would tell you, like, I don't sleep at all. I thrive on 2 hours of sleep because I'm just so used to it. Mm-hmm. But that's the one place you can't escape at all of things that happened and I experienced, to the point like you can feel things on your body, you can smell things so raw, and when I close my eyes, like it goes straight back to some of those darker days. When I came to America, they said like if I kept having the life that I had there with lack of nutrition. I mean, I was like 36 pounds when I came to America. Mm-hmm. So, and I was not even 8. I was about to be 8. The doctors in America said I wouldn't have made it past 10 had it stayed the same.
What conversations did you and your mom have after you found the adoption papers in the desk drawer?
Yeah, she was just telling me more about like my biological family, and that she knew that what their names were. And my mom always gave them the benefit of the doubt and just like say they probably didn't have the money to support you and your medical needs that you needed. And she never like hid that ever. She would be curious with me about that. And I love that about her.
And how old are you?
9.
Yeah.
You're so asking silly question.
Love you.
Why?
Why do I love you? I just do.
In what ways do you think that benefited you?
I think by her being willing to talk about the whole adoption, like the papers, my family helped me start to reframe that it wasn't my fault. I wasn't the reason why they didn't want to keep me, and maybe I don't know the whole story, and helped me be a little more kinder to myself, but then also to have so much like less resentment and anger towards them as well, which I think I didn't realize how much I had until she made me see things in a different light, and just having that compassion.
There was a period of time where you disliked your reflection because you didn't have like family that you resembled.
Yeah.
Right?
My friends like look so much like their mothers and their fathers, and I'm such a visual person, and I think when I look in the mirror, I didn't have any of that. I didn't know who I was. I have my mom and my family, but who am I when I see myself? Besides, I hate what I see because it's so different, because the kids are telling me that in school. And that, yeah, so like I struggled with that whole identity thing, and like I have my family here, but it's really, and I love my mom for sure, but it's like I feel sometimes alone in the world because there's no one that connects me to something when they look in the mirror, kind of thing. And that's not what family is, and that's not everything, but it's just always made me wonder.
What happened where I think the school calls your mom about you being on like suicide watch?
I tried some crazy things. I tried to also like cut my hands off too because I hated my fingers. I didn't really realize, and I think my mom knew but didn't, and then like I needed to go through therapy because how bad things were, and it was just a time where a lot of memories were coming back and I was suppressing everything. And when kids were telling me that you're a freak, you walk weird, what's wrong with you? I didn't want to live anymore. Like, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I never saw anyone that looked like me. Like, I can hide my legs, but I can't hide my hands. They're, like, my little paws are out there for the world to see. Now, like, I want kids to see my prosthetic legs. I want people to see the different ways you can do sports. Because when you start making that more normal, then then those generations from now, kids will not be made fun of, hopefully one day. But I think they're always going to, because humans.
So what was involved for you in getting past that, low point where you were having those thoughts?
So I went to therapy. The session was supposed to be a short session just to see. 2 hours later, the doctor comes out therapist comes out to my mom and says that we're gonna have a lot of work to do here, because I had a lot of anxiety, depression, just attachment issues, and things that I didn't know. My mom didn't know. She's a single parent also. She didn't have that other person. To me, it honestly, Graham, didn't feel normal, because then I had to have a doctor tell me, you're not normal, you need medication. And I started hating the fact I needed medication to be normal when I already wasn't normal. Now my mind's not normal. So I felt like I had no control of anything anymore. People were telling me what I could do with my bodies, my mind, and how to live and how to think, and medicine to help me. And but I didn't realize that until I started going to art therapy and drawing things out, and I was talking, didn't realize I was like, that was therapy and what I was saying, and the process of healing. And
What sorts of things were you drawing?
I don't remember, like, the one I really remember is, we were talking about animals, this doctor, and so I'm talking about something that makes me so happy, but then I'm drawing this like room with a sliver of like, everything's black, but then there's a shadow and no walls, and then there's red coming out or whatever, and which was like blood basically, and then just like monsters and all these horrible things, and then I guess like the one was like someone just like, there was like a person laying down and someone's laying down on top of them, and my body is drawing things that are completely messed up and are terrifying, that an 8 and 10-year-old should not be drawing at all. But the weird thing is, like, I didn't even know I was doing it until I looked, and I was like, whoa. Like, I did not know I was doing it.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was so lucky to have that therapist that understood what I was drawing and knew that things that I was drawing, there were some words in there that I was drawing, half in Ukrainian, half in English, and some numbers. And like 6 always appeared a lot. And like, she never made me feel like, oh, there's something wrong. She was like, oh, okay, this is interesting, and would have me talk about it, but I could not remember why I was doing it. Mm-hmm. From that, she gave my mom suggestions, prescription for some to help with my anxiety and severe depression, and that really was where I started. Like, my mom always loves this, because like when I first felt happy for the first time, like I felt that emotion finally when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And
your mom had to explain to you what that was?
Yeah, well, I didn't know what that feeling, like, I didn't know I was not happy. Like, I think I did a pretty good job as a kid masking everything, and never really, like, I knew how to adapt to my environment.
Well, you would even laugh when you like got hurt, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a weirdo.
Or like you'd fall and hit your head and start laughing. Yeah.
Well, like, I didn't cry for like the first for a long time when I came to America, because if I cried in Ukraine, if it wasn't the caretakers that were hurting you, the kids would hurt you because you made sounds, and then we would all get hurt if the one kid did something. And so I did not show a lot of emotions and would laugh instead, and just because I didn't want to show that sign of weakness either. Yeah.
In what ways did you find therapy helped?
For me, it's a feeling thing. I don't even know how to like put it into words how it helped me. But it helped my mind be so calm and so still, and like you were saying like earlier, like the happy and what happy means, and actually feeling and living those emotions correctly and healthy, and not living in fear and just masking something up. Because what happened for me was I went from trying to hurt myself and cutting myself to not, and found other outlets to like whether it was sport or whether it was drama or whatever it was as a kid, it helped me not hurt myself. And it helped me also realize what I was doing is hurting myself, because I didn't know. I was recreating feelings and sensations, what was normal to me. And that helped me realize what I went through as a kid was not normal. That's not a normal way to grow up. And without not knowing, you're never gonna find your way out either. You have to recognize it first.
You've persevered through and accomplished so much in life. What do you think you most learned?
Oh my gosh. I think something I'm learning still is to never count myself out. Because there's so many times that I don't believe in myself and I diminish what I've achieved, or just don't think I'm worth it. When everything seems stacked up against you and you're set up to fail, there's that 1% chance to never count yourself out. The minute you count yourself out of anything, you're done. You're out of it. You're checked out mentally, and you're going to be definitely checked out of it physically. And I think there's a lot of moments in my life where it was so much easier to just give up and stop. I think not just myself, because I'm not the only one that goes through adversity, goes through challenges. I think what I'm learning is humans are capable of overcoming so much more than we give ourselves credit for, and are able to achieve so much than think that we can. And it all does seem impossible until that moment that you achieve something and it's no longer impossible. And we all have it. It's all just a state of mind and a mindset.
What stands out from visiting the military patients in Ukraine?
Oh, Ukraine. How lucky I am to be in America, I think, is the biggest thing. Wow, that trip in 2015 was like going back in time. It was the wildest thing on earth. So a lot of people don't realize it's like the whole, Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, and there was there were fighting, so a lot of military men in Ukraine were coming back with amputations, wheelchairs, all this stuff. So I went to their hospital because it ended up being the 25th year anniversary of the ADA Act in America. And so it was there through the U.S. Embassy of Kyiv to show society how easy it is to make it accessible for their citizens, especially for the military and the servicemen and women who are serving their country. I did not think I was gonna have to climb up 3 flights of stairs to get to where these individuals are having surgery. Graham, I'm walking through this hallway. It's very bleak and dark. It freaked me out because I saw some of the mattresses that looked very similar to what I slept on as a kid, with and then the beds with the springs and stuff, and it looked like it's been used since Vietnam. You could see the stains, body stains on the mattresses, fluids from blood and stuff, but then when I met those servicemen, they were at first well, first of all, I think because there was a lot of men there, so they were like, oh my God, there's a girl here. But then there was oh my God, this girl has no legs. Holy cow. And then when I took my leg off, they were like...
That was a big moment, right?
That was huge. They've never seen this. They don't have... I'm pointing to my legs because this technology, I know what it's like not to have something. These knees have microprocessor chips, and I charge them, and there's so much design in them, and I have this because of the Afghanistan and Iraq war from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Was meant to help put, these are Autobox X3s, and they were meant to help get men and women back, boots on the ground, to be back in combat and stuff. They didn't have stuff like this, so it was a sense of showing hey, your life's not over. You can still walk again, and seeing their eyes light up, it was seeing they were realizing not to give up on themselves and not to give up in this life, because I know what it's like to want to give up in life in general and yourself.
You mentioned going back to Ukraine. Take me through the aggressive helpers' unwanted efforts to attempt to reconnect you with your birth family on that trip.
Little backstory to that was Ukraine's trying to get rid of orphanages and do more of what America is doing and Western culture is doing, which is foster care systems. So what kids are learning what home environments are like. I was gonna share my story and the power of adoption and how it helped me from Ukraine. I said I'll go to Ukraine. I'm not ready to meet my family. I don't want this to be one of those moments where they make this moment happen, because I'm not ready. I still have too much anger and I just don't even know. They said, okay, this ombudsman for adoptions comes in very late and, oh, I'm so sorry, Oksana, I'm sorry I'm late. I just got off the phone with your birth parents. They want to meet you. You have 2 brothers. Did you know this? And I had no idea. I didn't know they were alive. I didn't know I had 2 birth brothers. That next day, I had to do an interview, and they were screening. They found he was like, I have pictures, and I didn't ask to look at the picture. They were ready to get on the train to meet me that night, that day. It was like realizing, holy shit, my birth parents do exist. This is something I have always wanted. I didn't want it in that moment. I'm not ready for it. I ended up not talking and crying that whole night instead. And the next day, I was at an event talking. They had to screen all the people that were coming and visitors that were coming for that talk to make sure that none of my parents were going to show up or my biological family in any way. That night, my birth brother, the younger one, reaches out through Facebook, and then I'm up all night in the bathroom and my mom's trying to sleep. It's our last night in Ukraine, talking.
What were the answers that were provided to some of the questions that you had?
Well, so I was skeptical. Are you who you are, who you say you are? And I asked them of what my birth father's name is and what his patron name, his middle name was. And for me, it's Alexandrovna, which is daughter of Alex. And that's how you can pinpoint where you are in the family chain and tree kind of thing. And he knew that. So he said, you would be Alexandrovna. No one knew my name in Ukrainian at all. It was me literally interrogating him of who's so-and-so? What were the birthdays? Where were they born? The way he was like, we want to meet you. We don't want cameras around. I knew there was something real there, because it wasn't just for a publicity thing. We both mutually did not want to make that at that time a story of that moment.
You believed after all the answers were provided that this was your birth family.
I did.
Yeah.
I did, but there's a part of me that's still a little bit I want to ask him for a blood test just because are you? And that was just in some ways, it made me so angry, and in some ways it was a relief to know they're still alive, that this dream I do have of meeting them one day can still happen and I can meet them.
Why did it make you so angry?
Just because, why now? Why were they so willing to come now to see me instead of, why would they leave me there? And I assumed they knew what I was living through. I thought they went and scouted where they're gonna drop me off, and they didn't want me then. Why want to see me now? And that made me angry. At the same time, excited that they're around and that something I've been wanting for my whole entire life, I can actually achieve and see and get and learn. But then it's one of those things, I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you want something for so long and you dream of it for so long, and you realize, okay, Graham, tomorrow morning you're gonna get your dream, you're gonna achieve it. And it made me not want it all of a sudden. It made me question it. Wait, did I like the idea of being curious more than actually meeting them? And then I was just confused again.
How was it explained to you why you were put up for adoption?
My middle brother, he was explaining to me that the first race, the cross-country long distance, the silver medal in Sochi, is where the Ukraine news does this whole deep dive of my story of put up for adoption, born this, parents abandoned her, all in Ukrainian. My birth mom is doing dishes in the back and hears a loud noise because she drops all the dishes. And he's like, what's going on? And he said that she froze. And after a while, she told them that before they were born, they had a daughter. But they had to give me away because they were told I was not gonna make it and I was gonna die. And so that was the best life for me. Give me a chance at life was to give me away to the government. The crazy thing I found that this whole time, I was so angry at my birth family this whole time that I found out that's how I got my name. She did not want to give me away. And the government and the hospitals encouraging her to do so. And then she's like, okay, well, if I cannot be her mother, I'm gonna give something of myself. And that's how I got my name. Her name's Oksana, so she named me after her. So there's something of her in me. And then she decided, so then they relinquished me to the government. I later learned she changed her mind. They both, my dad and my mom, both changed their mind and wanted to go to that orphanage to get me. But they were told I died to stop coming because they tried a couple times. And so finally they told them I died. She thought I was dead the whole entire time until she hears this story on the news in Sochi of my first medal with my name being translated to my birth name entirely, to the date that I was born. And that's how she finds out, oh, yeah, and then they were slapped with a bill because when I was adopted, the government went back to them and said, oh, you owe this money because your child was in the orphanage system. Even though I was about to die and if I would not have made it till past 10 years old in that orphanage. And I started slowly realizing like this, I think I made this story of being so angry and hating them because it's easier to deal with hate and anger than it is with compassion in some ways and sadness and loss and regret and stuff. So I told myself this thing because it was easier to deal with. And I felt so guilty for being so mad at them for something that I didn't even know. And then started thinking of it from their perspective. I can't imagine giving away a child you never wanted to give away. And the only way you find out that they're still alive after you were told that they were dead is through the news publicly, but then also be given a bill because I actually lived for nearly 8 years. I can't imagine that.
So you've decided it's not just you like the idea of meeting them, but you actually want to go
I
through
do.
with it. Have you thought about when you want to do it?
Well, so I was going to do it after Beijing, and then the whole situation with the world started there, and that ruined everything. And now I'm in the same boat in the same way where I hope to God that there is going to be a Ukraine to go home to see that country with adult eyes. But I am in communication with them now through social media, and they're just so stinking proud. And I don't know, like, I'm so thankful that they had the courage to do that, to give me away when they didn't want to, regardless of the circumstances of how it had to be done. But I've always been curious of who I am and where I come from. And I want to know, where do I get my head tilt when I take pictures? Like if they do that, and just small little mannerisms like that. Because I have questions to ask about my flat nose and my hairline and who it's from. Because it's not cute at all.
Oh, please.
But that's okay. Thank God for contouring.
So you've mentioned his name a few times, the man you accepted a ring from.
Aaron!
Like, what do you think makes the relationship work?
I have no idea. I ask him this all the time, like, do you realize what First of all, I want to state on the record, it took him 8 years and 3 months and about 2.5 weeks for him to finally ask me to marry him. Any guy who's watching, any person watching for their partners, don't wait that long. That's just miserable. Why would you do that to them?
When did you know he was the one?
He is one of those souls you can just sit in the room with next to him. For me, not say anything, but just from day one, I felt calm and safe. So there's a moment in Sochi, that was our first Winter Games, on a gondola. I was trying to get on the same gondola with him and just like time away, the two of us, and so we had this moment where it's just like, it felt so right. I just like hugged him. And that hug was when I knew like, oh my God, this is not just a friend. That's the moment I knew. He also is really good at making fun of me in a way where I laugh at myself. And so he's taught me how to laugh at myself. To the point, like he always jokes and tells my mom, like, yeah, like she got me from the bargain cave in Ukraine because I was half off because I was disabled and had a bow and just covered that up maybe. And it's just so funny and just, day one, he's felt like home since day one. And it's a little bit scary because it's like, if it's too good to be true, when's the crazy gonna come out? When is he gonna learn that I'm like actually crazy too? So does he really want to deal with me?
How did he propose?
So we went to, after my world championships for cycling, he knew he wanted to choose the Tetons because he knew it meant something to my mom. My mom has this huge connection. Every story somehow circles back to the Tetons with her, and I love that. And he wanted me to have that same memory of the Tetons and have something there. We're in Jenny Lake, we're kayaking, and I wait till we're in the middle of Jenny Lake to ask him, so what are we doing? Like, who are we? What are we? This is 8 years now, going on 9 years. Are we like, and then he just like looks back and he's like, don't ruin this. And I'm like, okay, because this is day 3 of the vacation. And I thought it would have happened by then. It didn't. So the night he had a gondola ride scheduled, he knew the exact time of that ride to have something to say. He thought about what he was gonna say in those 12 minutes, and then there was a dinner we were gonna have. What happened was a storm came in, we lost our reservation, the gondola was shut down. He told me to wear something nice because it was a nicer restaurant, so I put on white shoes. It started raining, I was hangry, my shoes got dirty, I started yelling at him. But then what happened is the next day, we went mountain biking, and then we went up to on the gondola just to look. He asked on the gondola ride when we were the unscheduled one. I felt so bad because he was asking and he was not asking, he was talking to me, and he was like, I know you keep saying 8 years and has been taken forever, but honestly, 8 years is nothing when I've always thought of forever and a lifetime with you and all these things and in the whole grand scheme of things. And I'm just looking around like, wait, is this the trail we went on? Is this what we just were? Oh my gosh, did we just do that? And he's like, Oksana. And then I just see a white box. And then I start freaking out and screaming. And I was mad at myself because I told him, and I told myself, the minute he asks, I'm gonna keep the ring, and I'm gonna say, let me think about it, and make him wait for all the years he did that. But instead I was like, yes! And the ring was my mom's ring too, that my grandpa gave to her. So it's like an 80-some years old that he won playing poker at an army base. We get to the top, call my mom and FaceTime her, and I'm screaming, I'm engaged!
How about desires for a family of your own?
100%. He's gonna make such an incredible father. And one of my dreams is for my mom to see me be a mom and for her to be a grandma and be here for that. That's why I'm telling her she cannot die until after that happens. We both want a big family. He's really into the idea of adoption. I am. I just don't think I can do what my mom did and adopt an 8-year-old that's opinionated and comes with a whole lot of opinions already. But yeah, I think that's the next big adventure in my life.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Hopefully that made sense. I don't know.
For sure it did. Yeah. And you're like...
Okay, so now on to you. So when you're 2.
please.
No.
You want to reset?
Yeah. Can we switch seats?
That was amazing. Thank you so
Sorry
much. And
for,
sorry for asking you so many questions. I mean, we were talking about this beforehand. Like, there's no comparison to like you and any other person we featured in like 14 years of the show. I mean, like you're just like such an inspiration, and like your story is so motivating, and like that was what was so exciting about having the opportunity to do this. And so yeah, I really appreciate you like letting us here, especially so close to the Paralympics.
Oh, thank you guys for, I mean, like the people you talk to and people you've interviewed, I'm like, holy why me? Like, what the heck? This
come
makes
on.
no sense at all. And it's an absolute honor, and especially since you've been doing this since you were 8 years old. Holy moly.